To rewind a little bit before the events of Arbu, when they're traveling to Buckland Across to do a prisoner exchange between Elder Cottage Cheese and some knight that wanted to defect to the Applejacks Rangers. It's like everything is going all right because they're being led by this scribe mare, and then one of the lead knights steps forward is like, "Oh wait, you're that stable dweller. This whole situation is fucked. Kill him." And then everything just goes to hell in a handbasket.
How do you miss with a rocket like
Oh man, and it's I kind of like the part where they're doing the prisoner exchange with Buckland Cross because it's tying the loose ends between this civil war that's happening between the Steel Rangers, and it's sort of, and it was in the background enough where it didn't detract from the story, and it just comes back for this little part while they're trying to help out Steelhose, and they're recruiting them like, "Oh, this is just a matter of convenience. We can take care of this while we're doing that."
Just add it to the shopping list,
Yeah, add it to the shopping list. It's a justifiable enough distraction when they go to Steelhose for assistance to go to Camelot. That part makes sense. When the Steel Rangers betrays them, that makes sense. It was just the whole thing of, oh, Calamity spots a bandit attacking Arbu. That was when, like, it just became unnecessary. It should have just been
my policy.
it's my policy. It should have just been negotiations went south on Buckland Cross, everything went to shit, and that when they had the shootout on Buckland Cross with the Steel Rangers, that is what should have been the thing of Little Pip questioning her sense of righteousness. It could have been left at that. The whole Arbu thing could have been tossed aside.
Yeah. We wouldn't be predicating, a dense moral question on a setup that is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, but then we get roped into Arbu, and like, actually, really, the only reason why they stick around was because Firelight got hurt. We got to stick around so she can heal up, and that's why they stay there. That's why they stay there.
Pip. They're all also kind of injured. Like Pip is actually like she has a concussion and she's losing time.
Which plays a little bit into she's not thinking straight, and Calamity even brings that up. Little Pip has a concussion, and that's why she went on this murder spree, right? And then Velvet says, "No, Oh, go ahead.
Having had a concussion before, I mean, that didn't exactly make me murderous. And I was really dizzy.
Yeah, I think this is a good segue into the ethics portion of my my notes here.
Yes,
this is where we get into the real heart of darkness here.
Yeah.
Heart of the
is this where you had that thought about fascism?
That's right at the very end of it.
Okay.
I do. Yes.
Thoughts on fascism. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, like I mentioned at the top of the topic, Arbu actually, the in the moment of Arbu was actually like less shocking than I was ready for, and I was like, oh, Pip's actions in Arbu actually make like a degree of emotional sense. It's a little diluted by the amount of time she's casually flown into a violent rage already, and it's certainly not smart, but like I can see why in the moment she does what she does. It's, what the hell is going on outside?
Yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah. Anyway, but before I get into like the reasons given in the story for why people think it, because the justifications that people do after the fact is the real interesting part. Because in the moment it's just I lost my cool and I decided that me being a person who what.
That murder was acceptable.
Well, it's that it's like I kill wasteland scum. I'm going to kill some wasteland scum. That's about as far as she thinks about it in the moment. But the justifications afterwards are the interesting part. So just to show some of my homework here, I thought about the situation from just like a couple of systems of normative ethics. So this would be the big name things like utilitarianism and virtue ethics and stuff. So from a utilitarian point of view, we're trying to like maximize happiness and minimize pain. So well, how do we do that? In relation to Arbu. So Arbu are as far as the story says, they're only eating the people who fall in combat anyway. It's not particularly sustainable since only so many people, how many raiders are you going to have to kill and eat here? And it's probably not healthy either because, like, hi, Creutzfeldt-Jacobs disease says hello. But let's not get into 380,000 pony cereal box years here.
Yeah.
It could be argued that as long as Arbu isn't aggressive, then their cannibalism is gross, but we've got bigger problems to deal with. And this is Calamity's initial line of reasoning.
Well, except for the fact that with the ledger, that's proven wrong.
I have thoughts about the ledger and Grandpa Rattle, but we'll get into that.
I forgot about the ledger. Are they actively going out and?
So Grandpa Rattle basically kept a ledger of ponies that he tried to warn away from the town because much like Andale, there are certain times where people would actually come and stay at the town, and they clearly weren't normal people. And so basically that's the reason why one of the things that really sets Pip off is the note about the preacher from Unity. Because he didn't do anything but try to preach about unity.
Oh, right, okay.
And as a consequence, they killed him and ate him.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, that does like bump it up a bit in terms of like this town being a problem.
Right.
I have a counter argument to that. One, it's been shown throughout the Wasteland that the whole unity movement is kind of fucked to begin with. And like...
Okay, well, but he's not the only one that has that issue, though. That's the entire ledger, and like the impression is that ledger is long.
There are people besides the Unity Preacher.
The thing about the ledger with Grandpa Rattle is that Grandpa Rattle has gone senile, and who's to say he wasn't writing into that ledger during the day when he was fucking crazy and off his rocker?
I mean,
I don't think he can really be trusted.
I mean, I suppose that's where we're getting into, like, the, how admissible is this evidence?
Right.
How reliable is it? But you also raise a point there about unity, and this is a thing that Calamity brings up as well, is just kind of pitting the relative evils of the Wasteland against each other. It's just like, if Arbu are just eating undesirables, then, what's the problem? And I'll get to the idea of undesirables later. But yeah, Calamity initially has this kind of utilitarian line, and I don't particularly like using that because I feel like that characterizes utilitarianism uncharitably. But I went through the motions here, and he does kind of backpedal from it a bit to she had options and you did wrong because you lost control, and that gets into what you were saying, Heartshine, about Calamity he has a huff and then they hug about it 5 minutes later and all is forgotten.
Right.
In contrast, let's look at it from a Kantian point of view. So Kant's categorical imperatives, the idea that you should not do something if you don't think everyone should do it. So obviously, Arbu, we wouldn't want to live in a world where everyone's a cannibal. So the cannibalism is bad. Don't do that. But where it gets complicated is, would we want to live in a world where everyone went around fixing problems the way Pip did in Arbu? And that's
no.
Yeah, it's like if everyone is going around just finding things that disgust them enough to murder and then murdering, that is a might makes right situation at best and complete chaos at worst.
I was gonna say, because I was gonna say, like, that sort of thinking, kind of gets into your argument about, I don't know exactly what it was, brought up fascism, but like that's that kind of thinking of like, well, this is how we solve the problems, and I'm like, this ends up with a lot of people dead.
Yeah.
A lot, like always. Like, concern.
Yeah. K-Cat also talks a lot about virtue ethics with relation to the story. And I suppose the best known version of virtue ethics would be Aristotelian virtues. And I think the core of it is like a virtue is if you have like not too much and not too little, that is a good way to live. However, that's really hard to apply to this situation because how do you decide what your virtues are? I mean, sacrifice, that doesn't really apply to Arbu, does it? It's not really. She's not really having like a moderate amount of sacrifice. She's just go. It's. I've gotten into a lot. I've gotten into a lot of arguments on the Reddit, including with K-Cat, about this, about how I think this is sort of a flimsy way to think about the story from a moral perspective.
Well, I think the issue too that you run into, especially when I don't know, I've always had issues with the virtues that have come up, and that's something that kind of bugged me, partially because it's a little bit of a bastardization of the elements of harmony, and in other ways, it's something that doesn't exactly apply very well, and it doesn't apply itself very well to the wasteland. Like the virtue, like you said, the virtue of sacrifice is also one of those things that it's like. Looking at it from an Aristotelian's perspective, there's parts of sacrifice that are very, very usually noble. The idea is that you're doing things, sacrificing of yourself for another. And quite frankly, like throughout the entire time that they're saying that, Pip's virtue is sacrifice, I'm sitting here going, she doesn't. Yes and no.
Yeah. There's like a few key plot moments where she does, and then.
There's these convenient plot points where she does, and then you can say, oh yeah, that's your virtue, but it's like, I don't know. Every time that came up, and somebody was like, we should have like a list of virtues and what things you can have, and blah blah blah, and it's every time that they've come up, I've always been like, okay, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of, and why don't you go back to like the friendship is magic aspect of this, because it's simpler, it doesn't require as much thought, and to be completely honest with you, normally, this should be fairly easy to figure out. Now, we can debate that for hours, considering the fact that K-Cat then also went, oh no, the pony that lies on the air constantly is honestly honesty, and the pony that's a raging cunt most of the time is kindness. Because that makes sense.